Welcome to our webinar today. That's part of our Practice Management webinar series, which is designed to help wealth professionals like yourselves discover new opportunities to enhance your business. My name is Liam, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Netwealth, and I'm delighted to have Andrew Braun, Netwealth's very own General Manager of Marketing, joining us to share some of the key findings from our recently released AdviceTech report, which we hope will help your business with your technology prioritization. But before we do that, just a few housekeeping items. Like always, there's one CPD point allocated for attending this session today. To receive the CPD point, you will need to have watched at least 30 minutes of this presentation. We will email you those CPD points within the next week. And this webinar is being recorded, and in that email you will receive a copy of the session along with the slides. And if there's anything you would like to ask Andrew at the end of his presentation, please do so via the question box in the taskbar to your right, and we will try and get through them, maybe some during the presentation and some after. Now, just a little bit about us. Nearing our 20th year, Netwealth is an ASX-listed company who provide an online platform to support financial advisors with a wide range of financial products and services to help manage their clients' investments and superannuation. So partner with us, an award-winning platform to start running your business the way you want to. Some of our key features include a market-leading advisor and client portal, a mobile app to help you and your clients access key info on the go, and a wide range of investment options such as managed accounts, advanced transaction tools, automatic ROA, and portfolio rebalancing. We also have a suite of detailed reports that can be tailored to your client and business needs, as well as access to unique insights designed to help you grow your business. Now, it gives me great pleasure of introducing Andrew Braun, who is not only my manager, but is manager of marketing here at Netwealth. Andrew has been leading Netwealth's marketing for over 5 years and has 15 years experience working with digital technologies as a technician, strategist, and marketer. He was also heavily involved in the creation of our AdviceTech report and knows it inside out and back to front. So please, Andrew, take it away.
Thanks, Liam, and thanks for joining us today. I'm pretty excited to present to you all and share with you some of the insights from the AdviceTech report. But before we get started, I wanted to take you back to 2001. I was 25 and I had just gone through the .com boom and I was looking for my next adventure. I'd come back to Australia after spending a couple of years in Los Angeles, home of my favourite team, the LA Lakers. And I was looking for a new job. I joined Census. Some of you may know Census as the owner of iconic brands such as Yellow Pages and the White Pages. At the time when I joined in 2001, Census, or the Yellow Pages brand, was doing over $1 billion in revenue a year. They were earning $1 billion from advertising, getting monies from vets, electricians, service providers such as yourselves. At the time, they had the opportunity, whilst I was there, to invest in Seek, but they didn't. Realestate.com.au, but they didn't. And investincarsales.com, they didn't. A trifecta of leading digital companies which they failed to invest in. Instead, they invested in the Trading Post. Now, at the time, it made some sense. eBay was launching in Australia, and the Trading Post was the leading print publication for used cars and bicycles. Now, as we all know today, and you can see from this search results, the Trading Post barely exists, and the Yellow Pages brand is not nearly what it used to be. One of the things that it taught me in my 20s was how important technology was. And Census had actually had its Kodak moment, but instead of doubling down on digital, they doubled down on analog. They said print's still the way to go, and we all know where that led. Technology is a disruptor. And when we think about the evolution of the wealth industry, where does that leave us? Now, we're all doing a great job of adopting technology, and the AdviceTech report will demonstrate that to us when we go through it shortly. But the challenge for our industry and for you as businesses is to not have a Kodak moment, is to fully embrace technology and don't just see it as a passing fad or something that is a little bit too hard. Today we're going to look at both local and global technology insights. The local insights we're going to derive from our AdviceTech research report, which is something we conduct every year and we're into our third year. The global insights we're going to learn from our study tours. Netwealth is fortunate enough to go on a study tour at least once a year where we visit countries like Silicon Valley or cities like Silicon Valley or London, and most recently we actually went to Tel Aviv in Israel to try and understand the latest trends in technology that not just advisors are using and service providers are using, but global technology trends. And I'm going to share some of those with you today. The Netwealth's 2019 AdviceTech report looked at 26 different technologies, their usage by advice firms today, and their current intention to be used. We looked at technologies such as online virtual meetings, client presentation tools, client portfolio tools, back office efficiency tools like managed accounts and scaled advice. We also looked at over 100 different suppliers to try and understand which were the leading suppliers. Today I'm going to take you through a brief look at that report. We surveyed 336 advisors, and what we looked at was not just advisors that had a small number of staff or had a large number of staff, or we didn't just look at businesses that were new businesses or old businesses. In fact, we looked at what I would argue is a great breadth of different advice businesses. And the reason I want to share this to you is largely because we believe that the data is not skewed towards a type of practice, small, large, revenue strong, revenue poor, Generation X, baby boomer. We believe it's an aggregated view of the whole industry, so it's applicable to you. When we sat down this year to design our AdviceTech report, a burning question we had was, how do we find businesses that were leaders? And what we mean by leaders they were businesses that were adopting AdviceTech and taking advantage of it to their business. We were fortunate enough to identify these businesses, and we call them AdviceTech stars. So I want to just show you how we define them in a bit more detail. In previous research, we've found that it's not the size of the business that dictates the AdviceTech adopted by the business. Although size of the business sometimes adds complexity, smaller businesses are just as likely as bigger businesses to adopt AdviceTech. We also saw that it wasn't necessarily the generation of the clients that were drivers of technology adoption. The advice businesses with younger clients didn't necessarily adopt technology more in a greater sense than advice businesses with older clients. What we did find was it was the decision maker of the business, their attitude to technology was what influenced adoption. And this chart shows you what that means. We've got 4 different segments of decision makers in our survey. The first segment, what we call, is the technology early adopters, and they're more interested in working and developing a relationship with vendors on the bleeding edge. They're looking to fundamentally reshape their business. And we have a large number of technology early adopter decision makers. We also have a group of technology pragmatists, and they want to use stable, which is technology, but it doesn't have to be commonly available. And what they're looking to do is develop a competitive edge. Those 2 first groups are what we call those willing to use technology in their business. The second group, the second 2 segments make up that second group, and they're more what we would call mass market or laggards. They're happy to use proven technology and only proven to help their business, or alternatively, they're actually laggards and will not use technology unless it really saves them money. So the first 2 are our willing to use technology. Our second 2 are those not willing to use technology. When we overlay that with revenue growth last financial year, we create this segmentation model where we have 4 segments. And the AdviceTech stars are in the top right corner. There's 2 in 5 advice firms are AdviceTech stars, which is awesome. There's plenty of advice firms doing great things with technology today. But what sets them apart? Well, not just does revenue set them apart, but they're actually driving greater business benefits than the rest of the industry. These AdviceTech stars are more likely to spend less time on admin and compliance than the rest of the industry. They're more likely to have improved customer satisfaction. They're more likely to have reduction in business costs and more likely to have improved profitability. So AdviceTech drives business benefits. So back to the point around AdviceTech stars having a mindset of adoption. This is further demonstrated through this quote here. When we asked our respondents, how would you describe your attitude towards spending and investing in AdviceTech? AdviceTech stars are 28% more likely to find it's a critical part of their business success. 41.6% of AdviceTech stars say investing in AdviceTech is critical to the success of their business. I want you to have a think about that. It's a mindset to be successful in AdviceTech. And what flows from this? Well, it's not necessarily technology for technology's sake. What it is actually a dedication to resources. Yes, they use more technology. They use 15 advice techs in their business compared to the industry average of 12. But 55.6% have a 12-month technology roadmap. 1 in 4 of them have a dedicated in-house IT expert, and they're 1.6 times more likely than the industry average to have an advice tech budget. So without labouring the point, what I'm really trying to demonstrate here, these advice tech stars not only derive better business outcomes, but they have a mindset of technology adoption. It's part of their DNA, or if it's not part of their DNA, they make sure it is. They make sure to integrate it or find people around them that make it part of their DNA. So what's the results of this? Well, AdviceTech stars are going to invest more in technology next year. 92.3% will invest in client engagement tools, 88.7% of them will invest in advice and planning tools, and 84.5% will invest more this year compared to last year in operations and workflow technology. I want to turn our attention now to the client engagement advice tech, or what I would also argue is the client journey. A lot of media, a lot of commentaries around how does the advice industry build trust, enhance the client engagement, ensure there's best interest. Well, we firmly believe that technology can play a massive part in that. Not the only part, but a big part. And this is a quote that I love. The technology you use impresses no one. The experience you create with it is everything. So based on our research, what we found was that 44.9% of all advice firms improve their client satisfaction and the client engagement as a result of advice tech in the last financial year, which is awesome. And in the next 5 years, they think the client review process, the client communication engagement process, and the client education process will be influenced by advice tech. But unfortunately, there's a disconnect. And if you look on the chart on the left, this will explain the disconnect. When we asked advisors how would they describe the advice tech experience, their business officers today, 13.7% said it's not part of their engagement experience. And only 66% said it aids, but it's not the focus. So what we're seeing is that for 20% of businesses, it's pervasive. That's just not enough, given that their client base on the right's demanding more. Advisors said 75% of their client base is tech savvy to a large or some extent. And 63% of advisors are seeing an increased demand from their client base for advice tech. So as I said, there seems to be a bit of a disconnect, or this is the opportunity. And it becomes more prevalent and more important when we consider that our customers are using technologies like Amazon and Seek and Spotify and Uber every single day. These technologies are creating the new norm. Digital is the new norm. Great customer experience via digital is the new norm. So today, the wealth profession is not competing against other financial institutions or other financial planners. They're actually competing against companies like Amazon and Spotify and Uber, where digital is the new norm. So when we're thinking about advice tech, it's really important to consider advice tech across your entire customer journey. And today we're going to touch on a few technologies that look at different parts of this customer journey. But before we look at some of those individual ones, I just wanted to highlight some of the technologies that we cover in our report, just to give you a feel of the breadth. We look at things like scaled advice technology. We look at things like cash flow budgeting technology and client presentation tools. So there are a number of technologies that are currently being used or have a large potential. Plus, we also explore some of the main suppliers and emerging suppliers in these industries. So let's turn our attention now to some of these specific technologies themselves. When prospecting for a client, or if we put it into the perspective of the customer, when they're researching your advice practices or advice firms in general, your website is such an important part of their first digital touch point. In fact, it's your storefront. Imagine your website as your store. Now, if you go to your local stores, they're changing their storefront regularly. And why is that? Because a person might come back once or twice or 3 times and they want to see something fresh and new. So it's good news to see that 41% of advice firms are updating their website or blog at least monthly. Now, that's great. What we're also seeing is a lot of advice businesses are creating what I would call mobile-friendly websites. And you can look at the picture on the right by what I mean. If your website looks something like on the left, it's not mobile friendly. It's creating frustration and friction for your customers today, because most people are going to go to your website via their mobile. On the right is how we would define as a responsive mobile friendly website. It's a really important thing to create your online presence. Another great way to create an online presence is posting to social media. According to our research, 1 in 3 post to social media at least weekly. They're keeping their Facebook or their LinkedIn or their Twitter handles fresh with new content, new thoughts. Digital advertising is a great way to get people to your website or to your social media. Although only 1 in 7 advice firms do spend money on advertising, when they do, they're spending a bit. They're spending on about $1,000 on average per month on tools like Google, Google local search and Facebook advertising. If you're like me, you probably do a lot of research online. I know when I'm buying a new pair of runners, or I'm buying some sports equipment, or even going on a holiday, I'm going to be looking for reviews and ratings. I'm going to be looking at eBay, I'm going to be looking at seller reviews. When I go to a hotel, I'm going to be looking at reviews of the hotel. When I'm going to spend $10 on a ticket to a movie, I'm even going to look at a review of what the movie is. So why wouldn't this be the same for advisors and people looking to understand whether your advice proposition and the value you provide as an advisor is worthwhile? Well, it is. And there's tools like advisor ratings that allow you to collect and publicly display customer feedback. Now, unfortunately, only 20% of advice firms use this. So it's an opportunity for you today to stand out from your crowd by collecting feedback from your customers and getting them to post it on either tools like advisor ratings or Google reviews can certainly help you stand out and enhance your online reputation. Digital content is often seen as the cornerstone of a good marketing strategy, and it's certainly something that we feel strongly about at Netwealth. In 2015, Kenna Campbell, a financial advisor from Sydney, started Sugar Mama TV. It's an online money and wellbeing website and a YouTube channel which is designed for young women to empower them and to help them establish their financial freedom. Now, if you go to her YouTube site, Sugar Mama TV, which I encourage everyone to do because it's a classic way of demonstrating the power of content marketing. She has over 116,000 subscribers to this one YouTube channel. Think about it. Think about having 116,000 prospects to your financial advice business. What you'll also notice from here is she's posting videos of varying lengths, anywhere from 7 to 12 minutes weekly. 1 week ago, she posted 5 easy, fun and convenient ways to earn extra quick cash. She posts videos on how to save and budget for a baby. And she also posts things on lifestyle, like how to manage stress. She's had 5,500 people view that one video. So what advice tech does Kenna or Sugar Mama TV use? Well, first of all, she's producing a couple of videos per week. So she's got probably a digital SLR, a good microphone. If you watch her videos, they're not necessarily what I would call Academy Award-winning high levels of production quality videos. They're just real. And she's got quite a good personality for the videos. She's using social media, not only to upload her videos, but to promote her videos. She has a website. And as you can see, her website is all the content's driving people to have an exploratory meeting with her. And guess what? She's using Skype. So it's easy for her and it's easy for her clients to do. When we were in the UK, we met a number of these advice tech stars, or e-advisors is another way of calling them. Jane Hodges from Money Honey Financial Planning was really interesting. And one of the things she has is largely a digital-only business. And I want to read a quote from her, from our session, our presentation from her. She says to us, "I have never done a face-to-face physical meeting with a client ever. I've seen hundreds of clients through what I would consider face-to-face, which is on Skype. What's really great is that they can interact with me all the time because it's no skin off my nose. I don't have to drive 2 hours to see somebody to talk to them. I just get on my Skype app. Everything's recorded. Everything's part of the client file. This is all about making the journey, the customer journey, as easy as possible for my clients and for me." What's also really interesting is what she said was she actually thinks she sees clients more because of digital technology and has more FaceTime with them than if she didn't have that technology in place. She also claims that she's delivering a better service. She's allowing clients to contact her when they want to, whether that's during the day, after hours, on weekends, or even whilst they're overseas. And this is actually being supported through the advice tech research. Phone and email is still the predominant way that advisors communicate with their clients. But what we've seen is a huge growth from last year's survey to this year's in other forms of communication. Text messaging has increased dramatically year on year. Social media has had a slight increase. Using tools like Skype and for online voice calls has also had an increase. Video conferencing has had a huge spike since last year in the way that advice firms are communicating with their clients. And what's really fascinating is that this is where the generation of the client does impact advice tech. So what we're seeing is some of the tools that younger clients are appreciating. They're certainly appreciating social media and video conferencing. Funnily enough, the baby boomers are more likely to use online voice calls such as Skype, which probably indicates that technologies like Skype are actually mature enough for your whole audience, for your entire client base. Now, when we think online meetings, we're probably thinking having a voice chat or a video conferencing. We came across this great technology in Israel. Now, I want to be clear here. Any of the technologies that we're talking about today, Netwealth doesn't necessarily advocate. We're just showing you the possibilities. And this technology is a great collaboration tool. On the left, you can see the advisor's screen. And on the right, you can see the client. And they're filling in a form in real time, collaborating in real time with the advisor, filling in a form. Not only that, they're actually getting the form signed at the end. And the technology they're also using, which you can't see here, is using facial recognition to identify that the person signing the document is in fact that person. So starting to look at some of those KYC requirements. This is super cool technology. Other areas of the customer journey that we're seeing being digitised or AdviceTech's influencing is the fact find processing. There's a fact find itself. According to our research, 33.6% of advice firms use online self-service tools to capture client or prospect information, including the risk profile, with a further 44.6% of advice firms planning to adopt this technology in the next 24 months. The fact find is becoming digitised. And what I wanted to share with you was a company called United Capital out of the States. They've just been bought by Goldman Sachs for over $1 billion, which is incredible. And the reason, well, what we believe the reason is for Goldman Sachs largely re-entering the financial advice space for the mass market and mass influence is because United Capital have absolutely nailed the digital customer journey. And I want to show you how they've done that with the fact find process. They've developed an online tool called MoneyMind. You can go online and do it yourself, and the URL will pop up in a second. They have 7 simple questions that basically will determine a person's money profile. They have questions like this one here. What would you do if you get the latest technology? How would you describe your spending habits? Suppose you won 10,000 in a game show, what would you do? I know I'd probably save it, but lots of people would go on a dream vacation. At the end of completing 7 questions, a money profile is determined. And this is just a quick snapshot of it. It's actually quite a longer document. The benefit of this document really is to be the starting point of the communication or the discussion between the advisor and the client. It's not necessarily the end of the fact find, but it's a fantastic tool to start the process. And there's the URL below. You'll be able to get all this information on the slides later. The other tool they've got is called Honest Conversations, and this is either done in person, using these cards, or done online. And what these cards do is it's a card sorting exercise, allowing the client to determine trade-off analysis. So I would prefer to do this instead of this. And you can see from the example here, this person has decided to protect their family if they're not around, which is more important than educating those they care about, which is more important than spending guilt-free, which is much more important than other things like providing a lasting legacy. The beautiful part about this tool as well is that not only becomes the start of the fact find or start of the objective-based advice, it can be actually used ongoingly as a form of reference through the engagement process or even the periodic review to try and understand how you're tracking against these goals. Another great use of AdviceTech. I want to turn our attention to email. Email is almost old school communication these days, but funnily enough, it's still a very powerful tool. And according to our research, 84.5% of AdviceTech stars use this technology to send email campaigns or newsletters. And this is a big difference to the rest of the industry, which sits about 68%. When you look at the AdviceTech stars, 65% of them are sending emails or communications to their clients on either a monthly basis or weekly basis. Email's heavily used. And the types of tools they're using are advanced technologies like MailChimp. They're less likely than the industry to use Xplan and Outlook. Now, although Xplan and Outlook do a wonderful job of sending emails, from my perspective, and I'm a marketer, they're definitely not best of breed marketing tools. And let me explain a little bit about why. Xplan and Microsoft Outlook will not allow you to easily segment and automate campaigns. And then let me give you some examples of what a MailChimp tool might be able to do for you. With MailChimp, for example, you can segment your audiences into, let's say, financially literate and financially illiterate. And you're financially literate, you might want to send them a newsletter on, things that are happening in the economy, why you should invest or not invest in blockchain. Whilst you're more illiterate people, you might be much more interested in educating them on things like diversification and, what are ETFs or what is a managed account. By segmenting your audiences and using email, you can actually create more personalised and tailored email communications. The other great part about these tools is you can automate campaigns. And what I mean by that is take as an illustration, a welcome email. You might want to send 4 emails, and the first email might be introducing a new client to your team and what they do and how they can contact you. The second email might be about how to use their online platform or client portal. The third email might be 3 months later, and it might be a survey, a client satisfaction survey, a pulse check of where they are at. You can drip feed this, you can set them up, you can automate them, and you can set them up and let them run in the background without, it's literally a set and forget. You set it once and it's done. You might be doing an event and you want to set out an event invitation 4 weeks before the event. You might want to then, whoever didn't open that email, send them another email with a different subject line. A week before the event, you might send them a reminder. A day before, you might send a reminder. After the event, you might then send a thank you for attending the event. All of this stuff can also be set up well and truly prior to the event and automated for everyone. Hence the power of email marketing tools. Other benefits of email marketing tools include A/B testing your subject lines. Now, if you think about the subject line, it's actually the most important thing to get someone to open the email. When we launched Banker, which is a virtual economy for young Australians to improve their financial literacy, it was really important for us to try and get as many of our clients to open this email because we feel it's a fantastic program. So we tested these 3 subject lines. Now I want you to have a quick read of them and have a think about which one you think was the winning subject line. All right, so for those who guessed A, you're right. Not only did it have an increased open rate compared to the other 2, and significantly more than B, it had a high click-through rate. Now, what's interesting in our office is we run little competitions to see which ones we think are going to be the highest. But quite frankly, we actually don't know, and hence the benefit of A/B testing. We don't know what our customers always want and what they're thinking, so we run A/B tests regularly to try and get and optimize the open rates. Other things that marketing email does is allow you to create templates, so you can create a template for your newsletter, for your events, for your welcome emails, and you don't need a technology team to do this. You can drag and drop images in, you can write your own copy, and it's pretty simple to set up. You can also do great reporting with these tools, so you can see which links are being clicked on, which emails are reporting better. So although we've spent a bit of time today on email marketing, I think it's a really important tool, and we feel it's part of your foundation tech stack. At Netwealth, we run customer journey workshops for some of our clients, and this is where we examine the end-to-end customer journey and look for what they think in their advice firm are points of pain or points of friction for their customers. Recently, we ran a workshop for one of our Brisbane. We ran a workshop with one of our Brisbane clients, and for the engagement and education step in the process, they identified a number of points of friction, like, hey, this client actually doesn't know where to find resources, and they identified a couple of cool advice tech like chatbots. But one thing that clearly stood out for this group was the client portal as being able to solve a number of the different pain points for the client engagement and education stage of the journey. And what we're seeing from our advice tech research, which supports this, is that almost 72% or 3/4 of advice tech stars use some form of client portal technology today. And this is higher than the rest of the industry. Most likely they're going to be using their CRM or planning software to offer a client portal, or their platform technology like ours to offer it as a client portal. So what are some of the features you'd expect from a client portal? Well, one thing that you might expect is to get a household balance sheet or a whole of house portfolio, which looks at aggregating super accounts, bank accounts, potentially share trading accounts into a single online view. So you can get a feel for that house or that person's whole of wealth position. It should have tools like cash management so they can pay bills out of their client portal, or change their withdrawal or update withdrawals, or their investment profiles potentially. It should be able to handle documents and have a vault of these. And not only that, as we saw before, but support the workflow and approval process of signatures. You should be able to accept ROAs using your client portfolio. You should be able to accept transactions or changes of details. Your client portal may have a cash flow budgeting feature for your clients. It should provide basic reporting and insight to your clients as well, and obviously let them be able to update their personal details. Investment trends have told us through their research that advisors see client portals as adding a lot of business benefits to them. And the business benefits are such as keeping clients more engaged, or providing greater transparency, or keeping clients more educated or informed. 56% of advisors believe a client portal can actually add value to their client services. And if you think about, again, a best interest duty, potentially a client portal is a way of doing that. I want to turn our attention a little bit to back office advice tech. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I really wanted to just talk about some of the technologies we're exploring today. And not surprisingly, advice tech improves back office efficiencies. I mean, if you take technology back a decade ago, that's what technology was for. It was largely to improve our processes, our efficiencies, our profitability. I suppose today we're really focused a lot more on the customer engagement, but advice tech is there to improve back office efficiencies, and the advice tech research report supports that. 4 in 5 advice firms spent more on operations and workflow advice tech in the last financial year compared to the previous one. And some of the benefits they saw were improved efficiency, reduced time spent on admin and compliance, and reduced business costs as a result of using advice tech. The back office advice tech that we cover in our report are quite a lot. For example, we look at project activity and task management tools. Today, CRM and planning software and Excel are the predominant tools there, but we're certainly seeing an emergence of tools like Trello and Monday.com, which is sort of what I would classify these new age agile project management tools emerge. And I'd expect to see a lot more advice firms using those types of tools over the coming years. It's not surprising that lots of advice firms use cloud-hosted document sharing and storage tools like Dropbox. We're also seeing the emergence of cloud-hosted email. on internal communication tools like Yammer and Skype. And that's not surprising as advice firms or advisors becoming more mobile. It's great to be able to check your email or have internal communications on the go via your mobile phone. So these are some of the other technologies that we're seeing emerge through the advice tech. And some of the ones that deliver the greatest business benefits are up on the screen here. Of those who deployed new technology in the last 24 months, managed accounts delivered the greatest business benefit to those firms, followed by commission management software and cloud-hosted online document and file storage and sharing services. In terms of technologies that advisors firms are planning to roll out in the next 24 months, they're most looking forward to technologies like online fact find and risk profiling tools. Now, I appreciate that we talked about that in the customer engagement, but it also speeds up the efficiency for advice firms in collecting data, which certainly helps the process. Digital workflow tools and integration tools are another big one. And that allows an advice firm to integrate disparate data sets or systems, like integrating your CRM with your platform, or your project management system with other things, or your commission management software with your accounting software. The last one there is social media management tools. Previously, you saw that 1 in 3 firms are updating their social media on a weekly basis. Well, to fast track that and make that more efficient, you can use social media management tools like Hootsuite, so you can write once and post to multiple social media platforms at once. So write once, publish to many. So at Netwealth, we recognise that building your advice tech stack is not an easy thing. You know, most businesses have 12 or 13 different technologies. They're investigating how to enhance existing ones or replace them, or looking at new technologies such as online fact finds and social media management tools. It's not easy. And I suppose the first thing I want to call out, and it comes back to right at the beginning of the presentation, is it takes a mindset. That has to be your starting point. If you're not interested, if you put your head in your sand, if you don't find the right people around you, this is all going to be too hard. And if you come back to my original statement, are you wanting to be disrupted, or do you want to be the disruptor? So, in terms of building your advice tech stack, Netwealth has come up with sort of a methodology, or what we call 3 different buckets of technology. The first is our foundation advice tech. Every business really should have this. This is technologies that have been adopted by 75% or more of our advice tech stars. And you can see the list here. That'd be stuff that you most likely have in your business today. And if you don't, you really need to get onto it. Now, the next bucket's really quite an interesting bucket. We call it the optimizing advice tech. And these are technologies that have delivered great benefit over the last 24 months, or should look to deliver great benefits in the next 24 months based on our survey. And things like survey tools, so surveying your client, getting those reviews and ratings on advisor ratings and Google reviews, virtual and online meeting tools, you know, KYC digital signature tools will make it'll take friction out of the form filling process. Managed accounts, and this is, you know, something that can certainly optimize for many businesses, not all, the back office investment management process. We talked about online fact and risk profiling. Scaled advice is another interesting one, and the Advice Tech report has a good look at that. And cash flow budgeting and commission management tools and so forth are all about optimizing your advice tech stack. This is the area that requires great attention. Our final bucket are what we call future forward advice tech. Now, these are the top 5 advice techs that stars expect to adopt in the next 5 years. So 5 years feels like a long time, and it is a long time, but for technology, 5 years is an eternity. And what I mean by that is, in 5 years, with technology, everything can change. Think about what's happened with mobile phone technology. Within a decade, every single person in Australia, more or less, walks around with a mobile phone, is glued to it. These didn't exist 10 years ago. So 5 years is an eternity. And what I mean by that is, if you're not starting to think about future forward advice tech today, you're going to miss the boat. Technologies like AI and machine learning, big data. So, you know, open banking was launched this week. RegTech is growing in importance. And robo-advice, although we've had a hype that hasn't been realised about robo-advice, there is still an opportunity for robo-advice, and it's still something that's worth considering. At Netwealth, what we've done to try and help simplify this process of building an advice tech roadmap is to create what we've called an advice tech toolkit. This presentation is part of that toolkit, but the Advice Tech Research Report, which hopefully some of you have read, and if not, is available from this URL, is the starting point. Have a read of it and try and understand the different categories. What we then want you to have a look at is running a workshop in your business. And the workshop can be downloaded from this URL here. I just wanted to quickly take you through this workshop. It's a 90-minute workshop. It should be conducted with your team, and it's broken into two parts. The first part's analysis. And what we want you to do is take one workshop, two worksheets, and go through each advice tech that's relevant for that worksheet, and try and identify three customer benefits, and then think about how hard it is to deploy in your business. Likewise, for the back office worksheet, we want you to look at the technologies and look at the business benefits, whether that be improved efficiency or improved profitability, and what changes you need to apply to your business. This exercise alone, this analysis, should take about 30 to 45 minutes. Once you've done that analysis, we want you to plot all 26 technologies on the priority matrix. It's based on two axes, really easy to use, and the first axis is the value to the business, and that could be the value to the customer experience or the business benefits through improved efficiency or profitability. And then we want to map those 26 technologies against the ease of implementation, where you're looking at things like the time, the resources, and cost to implement the technology. As a team, once you've plotted these on the squares, you'll actually find you've come up with a priority 1 and a priority 2. This can be your roadmap for the next 12 to 24 months. So, thank you very much. I know I've covered quite a lot today, but I'm hoping that there's a few questions that I can answer. If not, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email. But thanks for your time.
All right, thanks Andrew for that fascinating insight into what advice tech the best businesses are using and how they are using them. Listeners, we really hope there were some good insights there that you'll find valuable for your business. And as Andrew just mentioned, we'll be moving on to some questions. So just a reminder on the taskbar to your right, we will please ask away, and we'll try and answer them. And of course, in the email you'll get within the next week, you'll have a copy of this presentation as well as links to those resources such as the report and the workshop. Andrew, I'll start off with a question. Going back to the online advertising, where it was only 1 in 7, which is about 13%, are really being proactive and being seen online. I think there's a big opportunity there for advisors to do more. Is there any sort of simple tips or tricks, or what should advisors try to be doing in the advertising space on Google and Facebook?
I think, listen, that's a really good observation and a good question. 1 in 7 is not a lot, and I feel that there's a great opportunity for advisors to spend more money on advertising. $1,000 a month. I don't know if that to some businesses might feel a lot, but you don't have to spend that much. You can spend a little bit more as well. The Google search is relatively easy to use. You get a Google account, you log in, you do some searching on some keywords, you create a Google profile for your business, and you can relatively quickly start generating leads to your website. One thing you need to be careful of, though, is the pages that you direct people to. So, and what I mean by that, if someone's doing a search for SMS, self-managed super fund, financial advisors, and your website pops up and you've paid to have your website pop up in the Google search results. If the consumer then clicks on that link and it gets taken to your homepage of your website, and your homepage of your website does not mention anything about self-managed super funds, that person will just leave your website and go and do another search again. So the search terms themselves need to reflect the content on your website.
Yeah.
That said, we could do a webinar on this sort of stuff. It comes back to, again, a mindset. If you play around with Google search, you'll get there. But that said, companies like Census, who I referenced earlier in the presentation, they actually provide services in these areas now. They've morphed their business to be a digital marketing expert.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andrew. We have another question here from Paul, who said, I think he thinks it's fair to say that AdviceTech staff firms would most likely have a dedicated technology person in-house to make all these best-of-breed products talk to each other. Is there any sort of way small businesses could do similar, or how would you go about helping them integrate technologies with one another?
I suppose the key is to find technology partners in this regard. There's two keys. One is to spend time talking to your technology vendors and understanding it, not putting your head in the sand. That's the first thing. You just have to get involved. And the second thing is to find good technology partners. And things to ask them is, how well do you integrate with the CRM that I'm looking at? Or how well do you integrate with, how open is your environment so I can pull the data out and put it into other places? I think that's a critical place to start. The other critical place to start is examining your business and the business strategies. I suppose one of the points that I'm trying to communicate is that it's not technology for technology's sake. You can have a whiz-bang CRM, you can invest in Salesforce, spend lots of money in it, but if you're only using 3 features of it, then as a content management thing, use Outlook. Don't spend money and time on a whiz-bang CRM. So understand your business objectives, understand which parts of the client journey you really want to enhance, understand which parts of your business are inefficient that you want to enhance, and then try and find technology. Don't do it the other way around. It's okay also to have technology for one specific thing. At Netwealth, in just the marketing team, we use 6 different technologies. Not ideal, they don't talk to each other, but we just become masters of them. We use an email system and we log in and we just send emails from it. We log in and send our social media from another place. And it's okay that they don't talk to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I have another advisor here. He's saying, like Jane Hodges from Money Honey, wants to do more online meetings. So he really sees the benefit. He's currently using Zoom, but what he's finding is that a lot of his clients don't own laptops, and it's not great on mobile. Is there any sort of alternatives they could use, perhaps FaceTime type technology?
Again, I don't want to be necessarily promoting one technology over the other because I haven't done a great investigation of different technologies. I know GoToWebinar is a technology that we use at Netwealth. That seems to be pretty good. It comes with a price tag, but even technologies like WhatsApp and Skype are pretty robust these days. So perhaps it's worth going to some of the bigger vendors if this is going to be a core part of your technology stack. If it's something they're going to use occasionally, maybe you can go for something more cheap and cheerful.
Yeah, cool. And now we know there's been a lot of talk about blockchain and the impact that could have on the next few years. I won't get you to explain what blockchain is, but what impact do you think it may have, or what do you think the future of blockchain lies in financial advice?
Wow, that is probably one of the hardest questions to respond to around blockchain. I was actually reading an article this morning around cryptocurrencies and blockchain, and that seems to be one of the use cases that financial services industries are looking to in the short term. So what that really is trying to create a stable cryptocurrency that's pegged to a fiat currency, and so that's certainly an area where blockchain is going to be important. We're also seeing blockchain be rolled out there's pilots being done by the Australian Stock Exchange and the larger banks around their transaction processing, with the view that it will speed up the processing, moving from a T+3 to a real-time transaction processing, which will certainly impact Netwealth and will impact buying and selling of investments. Also, companies like Calistone, who look after the managed funds sort of exchange, in essence, or data flow, are looking at it heavily. But in terms of a fundamental shift in wealth and advice and financial services, I feel that it's way too early to be making calls. It's certainly something that we've got a watching brief on at Netwealth. We don't have any firm positions on at the moment.
Cool. I have a advisor here, so I just lost it. He's looking to implement digital signatures in his business, and he's just wondering, is there any regulation he needs to concern himself around that beforehand?
That's a good question. I'll probably need to come back to you on that. And again, I can only reflect on our experiences at Netwealth. We use WriteSign and DocuSign and as a tool, and I feel that they're fine. I think I don't want to promise you guys, but I think they're fine from a compliance point of view. I know what's not fine, and often it's getting someone taking a photo of their signature that doesn't count as digital. So what it's actually requiring is someone to actively do something digitally, and that to be recorded to equal a digital signature.
Yeah, hope that helps you. Final question, because there seems to be a few people on the line sort of investigating the CRM options. Is there any questions they should potentially ask their advisors to find which ones are the suppliers, or any research they should do to find the option that's perhaps best for them?
So I think there's two schools of thought here with CRMs in the industry. One is it should be integrated with my planning software, and they're typically people who are comfortable using tools like Xplan or Midwinter. Or there's another school of thought that goes, I want to decouple my CRM from my strategy and modelling tools. And they're looking at technologies like Salesforce or Xeppo or configurations of Salesforce that are more tailored for the financial services industry. I think that's the fundamental decision that needs to be made first. And then, again, it comes down to what features of the CRM do you really want to use? I think things like that are really important to be able to have a whole of house view of your clients. The husband, the wife, and be able to aggregate them and see in your CRM that they're actually two different people, but they're one household. I think your CRM needs to be able to support that type of thing. I think your CRM should really support some level of integration into your email marketing system. So, you know, how well does it play with a MailChimp or something like that? I think becomes a really important question if you want to really go down that communication piece. And then the other thing is, how well does it integrate with your other technologies, like your platform or your accounting software? So I think they're important things to be asking yourself. The next level of detail is around your workflow and how important managing workflow is in your CRM. You know, do you need to set up checklists and all of that stuff within the CRM, or are you comfortable doing that again using a tool like Trello or you know, these modern project management tools? Again, depends on your level of sophistication and your business need.
Hope that clears up for you guys, and for those investigating. In our logo map in our report, there's it lists some suppliers that you may wish to consider. So I think we'll wrap it up there. That's a good time. Andrew, thank you again for your presentation. Listeners,
thank you for having me.
For hanging on the line there. Apologies if we didn't get to your question. We'll just wrap up with something, with a recap. As I said at the start, there is one CPD point available, and that will be sent to you via email. We're going to try and get it to you within the next week. We are setting up a new CPD program, so maybe a bit longer. Apologies if that's the case. In that email will also be links to all the resources, a link to the recording today, as well as the slides. If you enjoyed today's webinar, you may also enjoy our portfolio construction series. Our next one is with Charlie Lanchester from BlackRock, who will be sharing some of the drivers influencing the current equity landscape to help you find the investment sweet spot and benefit from diversification. And then our next practice management webinar will be the always inspiring Kim Payne, who will be sharing marketing strategies to help you communicate and demonstrate your value to clients. We hope to see you there. Andrew, thanks once again, and thank you, listeners. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.